Hi, and thank you for joining us today on the Road to Recovery. I'm your host, Rhonda Jackson, serial entrepreneur and small business advocate. And today's guest, we have the illustrious Karen Blackwell, a futurist and a planner. Thank you for joining us today, Karen.
Hi, glad to be here.
Thank you. So, Karen, you are selected as a guest today surrounding today's conversation with your very extensive resume that extends from corporate America all the way through into the mayor's office. And not just politics, but politics and engagement is one of the topics that we wanted to discuss with you today. So, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm a rare person who has sat at every seat at the table because I've also been an entrepreneur. I've been a VP in a small business as well as corporate and politics. And so I try to bring all of that together
Mhm.
to inform my decisions and then also to share that with others.
Yes. So one of the ways that I do like to start the show is I like to ask the guest for one word that they would use to describe the times that we're in. One word that you would use to describe now. What would that word be?
I like the word present.
Okay, say more.
I think that today, well, number one, I like to use that phrase that the point of power is the present.
Okay.
We have to be very mindful of where we are right now. We have to use the resources that are available to us right now. And then I also like the fact that the present is a gift you give yourself when you are on task,
I
when you are mindful, and when you are really aware of what your interests are.
I love that. And so what I like to do is take that gift and use it as momentum to help emerging and established business owners move their businesses forward. I call it shifting them into gear. So you're very key to this conversation today, and I thank you again for being here. So can we kind of start that dialogue from, I guess, the point where you just left off? If we were, as business owners, as we should, right? We're in the middle of an election year, and we're a few months away from making some very key decisions about how this, or contributing to making key decisions about how the country moves forward. Where would we need to start, to be that informed business owner and make some of those decisions from a place of power?
Okay, so I think that first, let me tell most people that they should not feel overwhelmed.
Oh, I love that.
It's easy to feel like that in these current times. And people like to use words that make us feel more destabilized than we really should. These are revolutionary
Yeah.
times. Revolutionary times. That means it's not easy.
Mhm.
We're not going to stay where we were, and we're moving forward into the unknown. We always are moving forward into the unknown, but we have a conceit where we act like we know where we're going,
Where we're going.
right?
Well,
But we don't know.
we're calling it the road to recovery for,
Yeah.
for today's conversation. Is the road. So on our way, on our journey to recovery, one of the areas that we as business owners should be very conscious and aware of is our political savvy. Okay. So
Yes.
we were looking from a very layman baseline arena. Where would you ask for us to start as business owners?
Right. And that's why I had said there's almost too much information. So by choosing one or two things to really focus on, people will, I think, be more empowered. So the three E's that we're going to use today are education, engagement, and empowerment.
If we were to break those down, so let's start with education. Where should a business owner start if they were going to or as they educate themselves? Where would we start?
Well, I always like to go to the three places where we are right now, right? There's always the internet.
Hmm.
So I think there's more information now than we've had at our fingertips than ever before.
Yes.
So I'd like to talk today about Proposition 16, and I want people to use the internet to find out more information about that, right? Because that's accessible and it's always accessible.
Okay.
I think books still are critical. And the book that I'd like to recommend to your viewers today is a book called The Color of Money,
Uh-huh.
and it's by a woman, Dr. Mishar Baradaran, Baradaran.
Okay.
And
We'll
she's
put
a
links to
professor
it.
of banking.
We'll put links to it in the discussion box below
Okay.
so people can get more
Just so
information.
they can find out.
So you've given us 3 sources for by means of education. There are 2 arenas that you've
Oh,
kind of
those were two. One was the internet, the other is the book, and the other is talk to your peers. You'll find out that many times your peers know more about something or have an opinion, and we need to be able to talk to people who sometimes have a difference of opinion
Mhm.
so that we can be more informed. So those
Diversity.
would be my 3 forms of getting information to be more educated.
I love that.
And today, to be more educated about Proposition 16.
Okay, so if we were to look at this in bite-sized chunks, then
Yes,
we're looking at the sense of community, I guess, from a ground level, right? So if you're talking about local things that are happening, like you mentioned for the state of California with
right,
Prop 16, and then for the internet research to get the fact finding or the factual-ish findings, depending on your source on the internet,
right.
about what's happening with it. And then the book as a reference for, I think in our pre-talks, you described it as some of the historical conversations about the cycles that are created in our economy that tend to recreate themselves. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with a platform like Road to Recovery, with tapping into experts and knowledge bases like yourself, is to break some of those cycles, right? And create new circles of wealth, new circles of community, and new circles of activism in the form of, you said it best. Will you talk a little bit, say what you said about the self-acting and self-interest when you're directing your vote or directing your interest towards something?
Okay, and I'll tie that to the book.
Okay.
So if you have an understanding of history and the history of banking and why banking, the access to money for minority business owners, primarily African American business owners, has been so dismal that it's not an accident. It's not because minority business owners make bad decisions.
Right.
It's because it's been a structural and an intentional action. And that's why I recommend that book. Because once you begin to understand that, then you will be are able to more fully realize your own power. That it isn't that you continue to make bad decisions, it's that you make decisions based on inadequate information,
Right.
bad information. So we have to get people to have the correct information, and a sense of history does that. Then you're able to vote your own best interest, because your best interest should be the interest of your community, your
Yes.
family, and future generations, which takes us back to why we're all futurists when we're trying to increase the potential for our families to thrive.
Right. And I love how you've tied in the engagement with the community as you've wrapped all that together. So our starting with us individuals as a foundation and then being able to grow on that for generations to come. So that engagement.
Yes.
So, and then you also use the word, I think I said the word power, you said the word power. So then can you talk a little bit about what that empowerment looks like once you've had that engagement and that education tied together? What does that do for us?
Well, then it makes you an active participant in the world, and you begin to understand how your actions have direct results.
I love that. I love
And when you're able to see how your actions have direct results, like being informed on propositions,
that.
not not being overwhelmed by the gobbledygook that you'll hear. It's too much. You'll say, oh, I hear this and it sounds good, and then I hear that and it sounds bad. But you've learned to decipher things since the beginning.
Mhm.
I know this isn't anything that we talked about before, but remember, King Solomon prayed for discernment.
Understand.
Why was that?
Yeah.
So that you would be able to understand and discern where the true truth lies.
Right.
And the truth is always going to be different for you in your set of circumstances, which is why you need to be educated
Yeah.
so that you understand, and then discernment makes sense.
And I like in one of our pre-talks, you talked about as business owners, we make some challenging decisions all the time, every day.
All the
But if
time.
we're making those decisions from a place where we're informed, we're educated, and then we're able to make the best decision with the facts and information that's in front of us. So to make this actionable, to make
Yeah.
engagement, empowerment, and the education actionable, what would you recommend as business owners emerging, established? What do we need to do? What's one call to action?
Well, I think I think one critical thing that I didn't mention before is you have to understand local politics. Now, not from who's who in the zoo, but you have to understand if you live in a city where you have a mayor, if
Mhm.
you have a city council, how do people make those decisions? What is the structure for policy? Now I have to go back to Proposition 16 again, which is going to overturn, if it's approved, it's going to overturn 209.
Mhm.
209 made it impossible in the state of California to have policies that were targeted, specific, and measurable that relate to minorities, people of color, and women.
Mhm.
So we're in this place where we have a lot of language that really, it sounds messy
Mhm.
because it can never be specific enough. It can never be targeted enough. It can't be measured.
Right.
So we want to be able to have those conversations. We want to be able to discern what we're hearing based on our education, based on our knowledge that we're empowered so that we can engage with our community and make a difference.
And it sounds like you want us to also engage with our vote. With
Oh,
our informed, as an informed decision is what I'm saying, to be an
yes.
active participant in what happens to this nation, to your local economies, to your local communities. That's what I hear. That's what I hear you say.
That is the call to action. Um, Now, we don't want to have one action. This isn't a one and done. So I don't want people to think that if they go vote on uh, November the 3rd, they've done everything they need to do.
Oh no.
No, engagement is ongoing.
Yes.
Education is ongoing. Empowerment is ongoing. So we want you to be informed so that you can go to make an informed decision. I'm not going to say whether you should vote yes or no. I want you to vote yes. But I know that if you read all the information and you decide that no is in your best interest, do that. Vote your best interest for yourself and the future generations.
But with
But past that, stay involved.
I like that, staying involved. So if someone would like to increase engagement or connect with you, is there a best place to do that? Do you mind sharing?
Well, I just really feel like why not use LinkedIn, right? It's there. I'm
Really?
easy to find. Karen Blackwell. I think there may be 5 Karen Blackwells, but I'm the only one that looks like me, and
Okay.
my picture is there.
Oh, we'll
And
provide a link.
I'm happy to engage and to stay connected with your viewers, and of course, you're my family, so we're connected at the hip.
We're definitely connected at the hip. But thank you so much for being a part of this discussion, the beginnings of this discussion. I'd actually like to invite you back as we get feedback on this video and hear more questions that are in inquiries. If you'd make yourself available for another interview, I would really appreciate
I'll make myself available for as many interviews as you'd like to have me.
that.
We have a lot to talk about.
We do.
And thank you. I'm very honored that you asked me to join you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
No, thanks for being here.